Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of Definitive Discussion. Hopefully, you guys have been enjoying each episode that I've been posting up constantly. I've been trying to make it into a weekly show with brand new guests and brand new topics every single time that I post one up. If you guys haven't already, please check out the episode that I did about the Legend of Zelda series with Zelda Universe. You definitely want to check that out, especially if you're a hardcore Zelda fan. But today, we're talking Nintendo. We're talking modern Nintendo. We're talking about Nintendo right now. So I decided to go get my man Connor from Commonwealth Realm over here hanging out with me. What's good, my man? How you been overall?
Oh, just a pleasure to be here. I've been traveling across Europe after E3 and New York and, well, pretty much all over the place.
So wait, hold up. Where did you go in New York? Did you hit up the Big Apple? You hit up Manhattan? Hit up all the cool spots?
Yeah, I met with Etika and a bunch of other Nintendo YouTubers in New York and visiting, of course, Nintendo New York. So it was fun.
That's what I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys went to Chinatown because they got dope food down there. Because I used to live in New York for years, and I'm telling you, I always go to Chinatown whenever I hit up Manhattan. It's the dopest place ever. But regardless, though, let's talk about Nintendo. Nintendo right now in 2018, we have the Nintendo Switch out. The 3DS is still hanging around, still doing its thing. The Wii U is dead, in the ground, 6 feet under. Pretty much, how are you feeling about Nintendo at the current moment? Good, bad, yay, nay? What's good?
Well, I'm very positive about the sales. We haven't seen a Nintendo system doing this well since the Wii, or maybe even before the Wii, because it's outpacing it. And we see also that the sales recently doubled for the Nintendo Switch. So they are on a good path to reach their sales goals. And we have, of course, Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming out at the end of the year. So I'm not concerned about Nintendo sales. The only problem I see is that E3 2018 didn't bring any big new announcements. We just got
no surprises.
No, there were no surprises. The only thing we got was Super Mario Party, and then we got two bummers that Fire Emblem Three Houses was delayed to spring 2019, and that they have problems with Yoshi, so it's been delayed also to 2019. And that's why we have a little bit of a limited or limited number of first-party games coming out until at least November.
Yeah, I think we had more smaller surprises because, I mean, there were still surprises like you mentioned. We had Mario Party and we had a couple other games here and there that we didn't know about really much, or at least anything about whatsoever beforehand, before E3 during their direct presentation. But as far as like the big ones that people really want to know, obviously we got more details about Smash, but we knew that was something for a while. We really wanted to hear more about the next Metroid Prime, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, it was still a fun direct presentation. But for me currently right now, I also, like, you feel good about the Nintendo Switch. I think that Nintendo's pretty good right now with their lineup of games and even just the diversity of the types of games that they have out there, the different genres that they're really hitting. I mean, again, you got stuff with fighting games, you know, with Ultra Street Fighter 2, even though it's an older game kind of remixed. You got stuff, shooters with Splatoon 2. You got your JRPG fix with Octopath Traveler recently. There's a lot on the palette currently right now. My only main concern, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, the online service. Because I know that's supposed to be coming later this year. We're recording this during July right now, so it's before the online service has really kind of been rolled out, and it's before Smash Bros. Ultimate comes out. And I'm still a little bit worried about that. Are you similar fashion?
To some extent, yes. But I also see that the pricing is justifiable based on the service you get.
Very cheap.
It's very cheap. It's just $20 for a whole year, whole annual subscription, and then you can't expect too much of the service. It's not like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live Gold. You can't expect to have as much of benefits or say extras coming with online subscription.
Let me ask you this, because I think that's a good point that a lot of people have really been discussing ever since the online service for the Switch was announced. You know, as someone, you know, me, I'm pretty sure you and a lot of other people have probably dabbled in either Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus, and that right now is what we kind of have the easiest thing to kind of compare to, or at least what some people would consider the gold standard in some respects. Not everybody, but some people out there. Why not have some sort of expectation, or at least, you know, expect some sort of good handling of the online service, even though it is cheaper? Again, it's $20 for the year. That's not a bad deal whatsoever. But I mean, can we still have expectations of, like, you know, having a stable stable connection or a stable online store, maybe stuff done with the eShop, and obviously the free games that you're going to get every single month that rotate out, like the new, I guess you could call them remixed versions of classic Nintendo games, because some of them are going to have online capabilities and stuff. But I mean, can we still at least have some sort of expectation there based on what we already know, what we already know that's on the market right now, giving this type of stuff?
To some extent, like I think the biggest expectations you can have is that the online features and presentation will be better than what we have seen on the Wii U while the
Oh
service
yeah, of
was
course.
free. That's the main expectation people have, is more stable online. And I think Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will be the big test in this regard. In both Smash Bros. Brawl and Super Smash Bros. 4 for Wii U, you didn't have the stable online unless you bought that Ethernet adapter thingy.
Yeah.
And this is in many ways a big test, a big trial for Nintendo Switch paid online, is that Smash works on it as it's supposed to work. And the same goes with Mario Kart, because people will not be paying for a service that doesn't offer what its main focus is, namely a good, solid, stable online experience on the Nintendo Switch. When it comes, however, to the extras, say the Nintendo Classic games, the remixed ones that you now can play also online, it's mostly just NES games for the moment.
Yeah.
And they talk about adding maybe SNES in the future, and it's a downgrade, of course, in comparison to the great variety and the diversity of the library you had on the Virtual Console. But at the same time, you need to remember that you are getting all these games within those $20, and you can play them as long as you have that subscription. So the biggest concern people have when it comes to Nintendo Switch Online is the day they close Nintendo Switch Online, will I lose all these classic games?
Yeah, I'm of a similar mindset
yeah.
with that. Yeah, and the main reason, much like a lot of other people, like you mentioned there, is that there seems to be a lot of red tape and a lot of kind of like, asterisk with stuff that I'm seeing about the Nintendo Online service, mainly being those classic games. Do you still hold on to them after maybe the service goes offline, or obviously if your membership it expires and stuff, which is again very similar to PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold. But I'm also of the mindset, again, since you mentioned the Virtual Console, why not open up that to other games, but maybe not necessarily offering the online capabilities for them? You're like going through that trouble and doing that stuff, but why not still approach in the same way that PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold does, where they still kind of just offer different games online, changing up through the month, like again getting like whether it's like SNES games or even like N64 games, stuff that you would find on the Virtual Console or on the eShop right now, and having it for that month. They did just rotate it like their initial plans, even if they do have to have it where you don't keep those games after that month, but you're still getting like all these different types of games as it changes every single month.
That's a good question. I think that you will be able to play the same games within the same amount of time. I just think they will be expanding the library come each quarter or half a year, because I think that they really want to offer you more constant experience. They have these games to begin with, but they will be expanding it as time goes on. So I don't think that they will be removing games and switching them to other titles, because that would create a great unrest.
I know a lot of people were complaining
community.
about that at one point. That was a big thing when they first announced it. Again, they haven't really clarified all the details, even though they've talked about it a bunch. But I know that was a big point of contention with some people.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah. And here's another thing I want to kind of dive into, before we move on. I want to talk a little bit about how you felt about the Switch's launch. Now, well, obviously, like we mentioned before, there's a lot of games in the Switch library. There's a lot of stuff to play right now. Were you one of the people that was kind of excited or kind of like uneasy about when the Switch first launched? Because we only had so many titles to play at the very start.
At the beginning, I was just busy with Breath of the Wild, to be completely honest. And I think most other people were good with that as well. And then soon after, you got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is an excellent port. The only problem with that game, of course, is the dual items are not fully balanced for the physics and how the game works. But then you got ARMS, you got Splatoon 2, you got Super Mario Odyssey.
All within the first year, right?
Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There wasn't a time in 2017 where you really got a break from the Switch.
Yeah.
That's not been as much the case this year. I would say that there's more problem with the Switch in 2018 than it was in 2017, because 2017 was much more of a new game every month deal, also when it comes to first party.
Yeah. Because I know that there was a lot of games coming out, like, I want to say at least 2 to 3 months after the Switch's launch, because I know at launch we had Breath of the Wild, and then eventually I think we got Splatoon 2 first, if I'm not mistaken, and then came Mario Kart 8, or I got them mixed up. Because I know there was like a couple releases.
We had Mario Kart 8,
Yeah.
Deluxe, ARMS, and then Splatoon 2.
So yeah, we ended up starting to get them after like a little bit of time passed. Then we started getting a lot of big games, and then Mario Odyssey came out, which was great. Everybody loved Mario Odyssey, myself included, and stuff. Another thing I also want to ask too, get your thoughts on third-party support. Vastly different than on the Wii and the Wii U this time. I mean, obviously the Wii had a lot of third-party support because how many systems were out in people's homes. The Wii U is where things really dropped off, but now we're starting to see a lot more interesting, a lot more different types of third-party support for the Nintendo Switch. We're getting games like Doom, which, again, much more mature type style of game. We're getting other stuff like, again, South Park Stick of Truth, and then we're getting a variety of others as well, including Skyrim, and the list goes on. And it seems like there's the third parties, or at least, third-party developers, they're at least more willing to jump onto this ship than they were beforehand, despite Nintendo's history with third-party developers in the past. I mean, do you feel like, things are only going to get better from here with what third-party does? Because I feel so.
It depends on the sales numbers, obviously, of some of the games we have seen recently, like Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. It comes to, I think Octopath Traveler is a very, very good example of Square seeing the Switch as a RPG system that they want to bring more games to.
Definitely.
But I also think they're waiting a little bit before making a decision of, say, trying to bring Kingdom Hearts 3 or any other big Square game
like Final
to
Fantasy
the
7.
Switch. Exactly. Even though that's pretty far away yet. I just feel like they're looking at the sales numbers, seeing how the Switch will perform this holiday season, or Smash and so on, how many units it can reach. And then we will see, because what we have seen so far is very positive. We've seen lots of third-party support, and we have seen third-party support from many different publishers and developers. What I think though we're still missing is those third-party games on day one. That's the only problem I see with third parties, is that, yes, we're getting Dragon Ball Fighters, but it's coming 9 to 10 months after the other systems. And that's something we see across the board. The same was with Dark Souls being first announced for the Nintendo Switch and then being delayed. And look at, it's in late July, and we still have no clue when it's coming out outside of the summer 2018 release window.
There's a couple games I know that are like that have come out already on other consoles like Xbox One and PS4, or even on PC, and still haven't come out on Switch just yet, or they're coming on a much later date. Like, it doesn't bother me though as much that a lot of the third-party or bigger third-party games are coming much later after the system's launch. Do you think though, whatever the next Nintendo console is after the Switch, like years from now, do you think like that'll be different, where third parties will be like, oh, you know what, let's actually do this? So maybe instead of getting like 1 or 2 games within that first month, maybe you'll have like a lineup of 3 or 4 games instead.
Well, that's possible on one
Between
side, but of course it depends on how or what the next generation of consoles will be like, because we know that PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are slowly reaching their life expectancy.
Yeah.
And I think that we might see third-party support for the Nintendo Switch until we get the reveal of the next generation of home consoles. That's when it will end, and Nintendo will have to consider how they want to continue supporting the Switch, or if they want to make a Switch Pro, or if they want to start talking already about the next console 2-3 years after that. Because I think the Switch can do okay even without big third-party support on indies and first-party games and second-party games over 2 to 3 years. It's just a matter of having that third-party support until you reach, say, a level of 50-60 million units, which could happen already sometime next year.
True. Now, one thing I also noticed from the Wii and Wii U era going now into the Switch era is that there's a lot less, I mean, they're still in stores, but there's a lot less accessories, or over excess of accessories for the console. Like, obviously, I've done a bunch of like unboxings and reviews and stuff for various different Nintendo Switch accessories, but it wasn't like an oversaturation from what I saw during the Wii era, obviously, because that was a really popular system. And even arguably with the Wii U era, when that console was out, because there was a bunch of different accessories outside of like the Smash Brothers controller, the GameCube controller, and some of the other ones that I saw in the market and stuff. I mean, do you find yourself now buying like other, whether it's first party or third party accessories for your Switch, or at least more so than the previous couple consoles?
I think most of us got the accessories we wanted back in the first few months of the
Around
Switch.
launch?
Yeah, of course, you needed those Switch cases, which could hold your cartridges, and of course, a Nintendo Switch. You needed maybe some screen protector, or like I bought this chic or no LED light up so that you could have a little bit more flashy Nintendo Switch than just the black box.
Bling it out.
That dock is, yeah, just pimp it up a little bit.
There you go.
And I just feel like the accessories that have been coming as of late are more of quality based, more than just third parties, because third parties have burnt their fingers a lot when it comes to accessories with those docks that were smoking bricking the Switch systems and so on. We have seen many examples of
From
that.
Nyko.
But now we're getting great accessories such as the Nintendo Switch charging stand, which finally fixes the problems that have been with the kickstand, on also the fact that you can't charge the Nintendo Switch while in tabletop mode. So I think that's a very good, nice inclusion when it comes to accessories. And I'm also quite glad that they're bringing stuff like the Pokeball Plus, which we got to try at E3, and of course the bringing back the GameCube controller adapter and GameCube controller for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and hopefully also make it usable in other different games that will come out, because the Switch is a different and much more core gaming system than, say, the Wii U was.
Yeah, I could argue. I could pretty much agree with you on that point. The only thing that I feel like that we're not really getting with Switch just yet, and I feel like it's coming at some point, is one, a dedicated fight stick, an arcade stick. Because even though we have one on the market now, which I believe is from Analog, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like an NES like Max kind of, but it's a arcade stick, you know, for like fighting games and stuff, but like a true one built by like a Mad Catz or like a Hori type of style. And then also, because of obvious reasons, a dedicated headset, you know, like a specific like built headset, you know, from like Turtle Beach or Astro or something. And I feel like maybe those are coming down the pipeline, probably like by next year and stuff, because it's been some of those different models from those companies built for things like that, but they're not necessarily dedicated just for the Switch. And I feel like either those companies have that in the works, or they're just not going to do it, or at least in some cases. Because I know Nintendo does have a lot of like different ideas, and a lot of different stuff they have out now that are like specific, you know, specific accessories for specific purposes. But those are the things that I find that are a little bit absent and stuff. Do you think that also that could be tied to the genres of games that are out now? Because we're starting to get more fighting games on the Switch now at this current point. I mean, we had Ultra Street Fighter 2. We're about to get the SNK Heroines game. We just had Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, you know, stuff like that. Do you find like maybe that's going to grow with that growth of the genre?
I think to some extent, yes. I think Nintendo is definitely taking benefits of all business opportunities that you can see. They're bringing back amiibos in a big wave now for the launch of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. They're pushing Pokemon Go like never before with Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. You have the Pokeball Plus, which will... they might sell more Pokeball Pluses, maybe more than they will say Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. It's just a matter of being able to deliver and meet demand when it comes to the supply. And so far, they have been able to adjust and make the right calls when it comes to supplying enough to meet a big demand when it comes to those type of products, especially at launch day.
Yeah. So I want to ask one more thing, though, that I think we should also acknowledge, too, before we wrap this up. We got to talk a little bit about the Nintendo 3DS, because the Nintendo 3DS is still hanging around, still kind of going strong to some extent. People are out here buying 3DSs, or really 2DSs in most cases, stuff, and they're still buying games for it. I mean, do you see it kind of like lingering around any longer, or do you feel like it's kind of like, you know, it's twilight, it's over the horizon at some point?
Sorry, 2 seconds.
Yeah, there
was a commercial that popped up. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, the actual what is it, 2DS or the 3DS? Do you think like the system's twilight is upon it? Because again, it's been lingering around for a while. It's still, people are still buying them in some regard, you know, whether it's the special editions or just getting it as like a secondary like handheld system, and they're still buying games for it like that. Do you still think like that console's going to die, quote unquote, at some point very soon, or like maybe in the next like couple of years, like the support's going to stop?
like we made a video about this, and what is happening with the 3DS is that they're just milking it to the very, very end. We need to just remember how many 3DSs there are on the market, around 80 million. Well, maybe not 80 million, but somewhere between 70 and 75 million 3DSs of different kinds and 2DSs. They all play the same games. So what I think Nintendo is doing is pretty much just creating those final remakes. They're not making new games per se, especially of those big franchises like Mario, Zelda, Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS, because they have moved on from it. But they will, of course, support it with some kind of ports and special editions and so on, like we saw with the Hylian Shield new 2DS XL edition that just came out. I just feeling this will continue until the end of 2019, what they're doing currently, and then it will be over, I guess. And I don't think we'll get a core handheld replacement for the 3DS. But what I think what I think we will get is just a Switch without the dock, where you can't remove the Joy-Cons, because obviously that will be cheaper for Nintendo, and also one with better battery life, so it will be much more handheld adaptable, but it will still play the same cartridges as it does on the regular Switch.
Now, do you think, like, with that being said, right around the corner, are developers really going to stop supporting the system? Or really is Nintendo going to stop making games for it, though? Like, in that regard. I mean, even if they still sell, like, different versions or different editions of the handheld, do you still think, like, okay, there's going to be a point where they just cold stop making games for it?
I think they pretty much already stopped. The only thing they're doing now with the 3DS are porting past games, whether it being from the GameCube era or other games that we had on previous consoles, like Mario Luigi RPG is a good example. We have Luigi's Mansion, which also have met a lot of criticism based on how they are handling that port. So I just think that is what the system will be used for, like the WarioWare Golds and those type of collections. And then they will probably just finish it next year, because at the end of 2019, the 3DS has been out for well over 8 years, and that's more than that is more than any other Nintendo system before it. So
really, even the home console version, like there's no 10-year cycle with some of them.
Oh no, we haven't seen a cycle. The only example that has been close to must be the Game Boy, but then again, that thing had different revisions and so on. And then you had, of course, the Game Boy Advance coming. So the 3DS has had its run. It might get those final remakes and swan song games, but next year, especially at the end of next year, it's pretty much game over.
I also feel like at some point, some of the big classics that were on Nintendo 3DS, the ones that could work without the 3D functionality, might get ported over to the Switch. I feel like that could be a conversation being had somewhere, whether it's at Nintendo or elsewhere, because I could totally see like Ocarina of Time 3D or Majora's Mask 3D getting ported over, stuff like that, you know, anything of the sort. Maybe even, you know, something random from like third party, like, or even just some of like the Fire Emblem games even being brought over to the Nintendo Switch.
Well, I totally could see that happening. The only problem is that, of course, not all of those games will play as well on the Switch as you might hope for it, because for a long time the 3DS didn't have a dual analog stick, and even now with the new 3DS, very few games actually take advantage of the second analog stick, while most games and experiences on the Switch take advantage of it. Look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2, look at Super Mario Odyssey, look at Breath of the Wild. I just feel like the Switch is doing fine enough without the 3DS titles. The only way games I really could see ported over to the Switch are maybe the Zelda games as a part of the Zelda collection.
Star Fox, probably. I could see that. Fire Emblem, Pokemon, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I think that Nintendo now sees that they will have 2 Pokemon games on the Switch by the end of next year. So do you really need those other Pokemon games when these will be, well, at least when it comes to gameplay, superior to the games found on the 3DS? So we'll see what they do, but I think Nintendo is more busy with getting Nindies and third-party support and porting over games from the 3DS. The priority has been to port over Wii U titles that didn't sell on the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch, and that's probably a part of their strategy that will continue also in 2019.
True. Now, final thing before we wrap up, where do we want to see Nintendo go next, or what do we want to see Nintendo do next within the next couple of years? Besides bring certain games over to the Nintendo Switch, besides develop certain games for the Nintendo Switch, I mean, what do we want to see them ultimately do? Whether it's for the fans, for the industry, for the business, what do they need to do to make them continue to be not just relevant, but also just making an impact in the industry? Because for the most part, they are really, with the Nintendo Switch, they're really doing some work out here. But what do you want to see them do next? For me, I want to see obviously more Nintendo first parties. I want to see more collaborations, kind of like what they did with Ubisoft, with the Mario and Rabbids, because I think those types of things are pretty interesting. But where do you see it?
Oh, I agree in a large extent when it comes to this, and then, I think the key to success for Nintendo is just to have more 2017s. In that regard, that you have those big first-party games coming out in the same year, like you have Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey coming out in the same year. Like a startup for the Switch that they could only dream about. And I think that this year might be a little bit slower. Of course, Smash is huge.
Definitely. December.
It's going to sell incredibly. I feel that this Pokemon game will also sell well, but some people might be disappointed based on how the game functions. And probably just have to wait for the next big Pokemon experience that is coming next year. So I just think they need to make sure that they have first-party games coming, at least one big first-party game. I'm not talking about the scale of Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey here, but just have a big first-party game coming out every second month or so, and make sure that they're not excessive draws like we saw on the Wii U.
Do you think we get a surprise one? Do we get a surprise IP? All of a sudden now we get a Zero or something?
I think we definitely could see some surprises, especially now with Nintendo working with Ubisoft, adding Fox McCloud and the Star Fox crew to Starlink Battle for Atlas, which is coming out in October. I wouldn't be surprised if after that game Nintendo decides you can make a much better Star Fox than we do. So learning that Ubisoft would make the next Star Fox game wouldn't surprise me at all. What I think, though, is that we might get a new 3D Zelda or 3D Mario already in 2020 and 2021, respectively. I think we'll see maybe a 2D Zelda, a 2D Mario. So I think they just need to put out those quality top-line games along with innovating a little bit, getting a new IP every other year or so, just to innovate and also attract new audiences. I think that's the key to it. Continue marketing towards the millennials, because it's the millennials. It's the millennials that are pretty much buying the Switch as well, because it's the only game system where you really can adjust it to your lifestyle. You can play it when you want, where you want, and with who you want. And that's the big appeal of the Switch as well. And I think they just need to continue pushing that agenda. Nintendo has now a new, fresh, and rather young president in Mr. Furukawa, and I believe that they're on the right path. They just need to avoid 2019 or 2020 having those lack of information and
slowing down the momentum overall.
Just avoid slowing down the momentum, because this year they have been a little bit slowing it down. There have been a little bit too many ports, a little bit too many small games of the likes of ports, like Kirby's Mario Tennis Aces. And I think they just need to make sure that they have a steady stream of those big first-party games. But they have Smash, so that is enough for this year. The only problem with Smash is that it's not coming until late in December. Yeah. So yeah.
Right towards the end of the year and stuff. Yeah, I agree with you on most of that. I think that we also get another 3D Mario, just a big 3D Mario, kind of like in the same way as Odyssey, maybe not in the same type of
probably
vein,
a
but something
sequel.
Different.
Probably a sequel.
I don't know if necessarily you get a sequel. I could totally see that happening, like that being realistic stuff. But I think at some point within the next couple of years, you get another brand new Mario game, just like something completely different that we haven't really seen before. That's like that other Mario game that we get that we must play on Switch at some point. That would be very interesting. It's going to be a cool next couple of years, seeing where not only Nintendo goes, but also where the Switch goes. But Konrad, thank you for chatting it up with me here on the show. I appreciate you. You're doing good content over there on YouTube. Where can everybody find you right now? What's going on?
Well, they can find us at youtube.com/Commonwealth Realm, and we do different type of Nintendo news, Nintendo Switch news coverage, in-depth shows regarding Pokemon, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. From time to time, we do timeline videos. We have in-depth reviews of Nintendo games. So yeah, it's pretty much a mixed bag of quality, well-produced, well-edited, well-scripted, and well-voiced content. So if you haven't, go and check out youtube.com/Commonwealth Realm.
Sounds pretty dope. There'll be links in the description box below, guys, so you guys can go directly to that. Just send them some owl hugs, send them some love, say what's up, do all that jazz and stuff. Any big projects you guys got in the works? Like any like big things that you guys got are focused on right now, as far as like video?
Oh yeah, we have a big video coming out, a remake of the Zelda Villain timeline we did back in the end of 2015, and
Nice.
obviously we have learned a lot and improved a lot since then. So look forward to a much better game when it comes to that.
It's going to be a special edition in the same vein as Star Wars. That's what it's going to be like. You're going to get a whole bunch of edits. You're going to probably throw in a new song. Maybe have the Ewoks blink, or what is it, Tingle blink and stuff, or get it.
It might be more extensive than that. Let's just say.
Yeah, there you go. That's dope. I can't wait to see it. But thank you again for chatting up with me on the show, talking Nintendo with me. Always a pleasure. Guys, if you can, make sure you leave me a comment down below in the comment section. Tell me exactly what you guys thought of the entire discussion we had just now about Nintendo. And also let me know any suggestions of people that you want to see on the show, guests you guys want me to go get on the show, and the types of topics you guys want to hear us talk about. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, I'm posting every week. I'm going to try to make this a weekly show with new topics, new guests, new interesting stuff for all of you to enjoy. With that being said, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.